While there are some differences between Apple and Huawei, they still share a key characteristic. Similarity is present the most with the manufacturing part. They produce or acquire parts for the mobile devices outside the host HQ. While Apple parts supplies range from Mongolia, China, Korea and Taiwan, Huawei produces some parts at home and also has suppliers across the world such as India, Japan and Canada. Now the differences. One of the key things that jumps out the most is the ownership scheme. While Apple is majority owned by a couple of key individuals such as the CEO Tim Cook, Huawei is almost entirely employee owned. As huge as the Chinese company is, its owner and CEO Ren Zhengfei only has a total of 1.42% share of the company. Another thing that's obviously different is the competitive advantage. While Apple focuses on maintaining the image of the premium brand by just releasing one big model at a premium price, Huawei has a completely different approach. Instead of releasing a phone that might be a direct competition to Apple, they also produce several other models in order so they can satisfy more customer segments and also to expand their brand name.
When we take a look at Tata in comparison to a Western multinational equivalent, in this case Volkswagen Group, we can observe a number of differences and similarities. Taking a look at ownership, we can see that Tata Motors is in fact a subsidiary of Tata Groups, which in turn is owned by Tata Sons. These are mostly owners that are the descendants of Jametsi Tata, the original founder of the company. Volkswagen, on the other hand, has an immensely complicated corporate structure. In the end, it actually comes down to a family-owned business as well, mostly owned by Porsche and Pech families. When we take a closer look at the structure and the substructure of these two companies, we can see that Volkswagen has been taking over numerous brands over the last decades, as you can see from all the logos on the screen. However, all these brands are within the commercial and the passenger vehicle industry. Tata, on the other hand, has been extremely diversified within the automotive industry. They pretty much produce all types of vehicles such as constructions, military and public transportation vehicles. However, because of the fact that Tata also purchased Jaguar and Land Rover, we can probably conclude that they do have serious plans to establish themselves in the automotive industry, specifically in the passenger vehicle industry. Next, if we take a look at production, we can see that Tata pretty much produces all of its vehicles within India, except for, of course, Jaguar and Land Rovers. This is, of course, because they have a huge availability of natural resources and access to cheap labor. They, of course, also enjoy economies of scale, as their operations are massive and they produce vehicles at a high rate. And also we can assume economies of scope, as many of components are similar, even for vehicles that are completely different. Volkswagen, on the other hand, has a more decentralized production structure, in the sense that Volkswagen's brands are still being produced in their home countries. For example, Skoda vehicles are still being produced in the Czech Republic, and Seat cars are still being produced in Spain. However, the components that they use are centrally developed by Volkswagen Group. These components are then used, with sometimes minor adjustments, throughout Volkswagen Group and all its brands.
Are emerging national companies a threat, and what can the Western companies learn from them? Now, the main reason that the emerging multinational companies are a potential threat to Westerners is that they have more availability and accessibility to natural resources and cost efficiency regarding labor and raw materials. Another advantage EMNCs have is that the Western companies tend to be more in the spotlight due to the negative reputation, such as Apple, when it comes to people working in sweatshops. Now, one of the things that Western multinational companies might adopt would be the employee ownership, making any potential buyout, which might be a bit unlikely in the case of Apple but still relevant, relatively more difficult to perform.
The presence of emerging markets doesn't have to be seen solely as a threat, but also as an opportunity to learn. These multinational companies are, for example, really good at getting to know local communities all over the world and learn about their problems and needs. They also invest a lot in talent, development, and create new, innovative products that satisfy the unique needs of their customers, which is something that Western companies sometimes struggle with.
Tata Motor relates to Barlett and Global Transnational Topology with the joint venture they have with Fiat Chrysler, and in this way they achieve global efficiency as well as worldwide learning. The joint venture gives them the ability to share the knowledge with different parts of the world, as well as receiving the knowledge from Fiat Chrysler, which also brings them the international flexibility. At the same time, Tata Motors is owner of a couple other brands coming from Asia and Europe, which gives them further ability to learn, develop efficiency and flexibility. In this way, the knowledge can be shared, which gives them the ability to work on multiple markets, not only market of personal vehicles, but also commercial vehicles, coaches, buses, military vehicles, and etc. On the other hand, Huawei doesn't do much joint ventures, but they spend a lot of money on research and development. This brings them international flexibility, because in this way they can gather knowledge from the Western world and design their products in the way they satisfy Western needs as well as need recognized on their home market. The same thing brings them worldwide learning, mostly from Europe, since their sales have risen for 40% in 2015. Huawei has research and development departments all around the world, so they can gather quite a lot of information. They also spend a lot of money on marketing, which gives them the global recognition and international flexibility. Huawei also achieves international flexibility through small production of components in Japan, India and Canada. In this way they also achieve global efficiency from lowering production costs.
That's all, folks.